name's Chrissy Sykes, and I am from the My Body is My Body program. I'm going to share with you how I got to where I am now with the My Body is My Body program, becoming a foundation and a charity, and the crazy journey that has led me here to this point. I was born in Zambia in Africa, in a little place called Choma, and it was in the middle of nowhere. My dad was on the railways, and there wasn't even a hospital in the town that we lived in, so they drove through to Choma, where I was born. I was raised all in Africa, in Rhodesia and Zambia. We moved so many times while I was a child. I think we moved 17 times before I left home. And it was just my dad's job on the railways. We moved to different places and different schools and things like that. But I think it was interesting because I always feel like I'm able to cope with most situations because I had so many changes in my life as a child. It makes you more adaptable, I think. You know, it's kind of like kids that are brought up on army bases. They're also very adaptable because of there's no security and there's no roots anywhere. You just go from place to place and make new friends and off you go again. So I was raised there. I did high school in Zimbabwe at Queen Elizabeth School, and I really didn't ever see myself doing anything amazing with my life. I started working at the bank and really didn't have that many aspirations. Had a child at 17, so I was going to be a mum and raise my babies. But when I was about 23, I decided that I wanted to start singing. And I moved with my kids down to South Africa because there wasn't much of a singing place or places to sing in Zimbabwe at that time. And there was a country music scene, and I was really interested in country music. So I entered a competition and found myself in front of 60,000 people at a big, wide, open-aired stadium, and I won the competition. It was just a fluke, total fluke, and I won a recording contract. So that's how I got into singing and doing shows and recording. And while I was recording there was a gentleman that came over from Nashville called Pete Drake. He was a famous producer and worked with Ringo from the Beatles and many, many, many very famous people in Nashville. And he said, "Why don't you come to Nashville?" And I thought, okay, you don't have to ask me twice. I'll be there. So I sorted everything out and got on a flight, and I went via London. I can't remember why I went via London now, but obviously that was the way that I needed to go for my life's journey. And while I stopped over in London, there was a case that was going on in the paper about a little girl that had been abused and actually killed. Her name was Kimberly, and she had gone through months of torture, cigarette burns, starvation, and finally her father killed her by kicking her in the head. And my daughter was 4 years old at the time, and I thought, how could you do that? I couldn't comprehend it. So on the airplane over to America, I wrote a song because that was kind of my outlet of how to deal with this terrible news and thing that had happened. And I wrote a song called Kimberly, never thinking that I would ever play it for anybody or that anything would ever happen with it. So I arrived in America, and one night I was out with some people having dinner, and they said, oh, Chrissy, play the piano, you play the piano, you sing, whatever. And I said, well, actually, I'll play you something a little different. I just wrote this song, and it's, you know, it's very sentimental to me. And I played Kimberly, and that kind of brought the tone of the dinner down a little bit. It was, everybody was kind of in tears after hearing the song. It really is an emotional song. And this gentleman came up to me and said, we want to use your song. And I said, well, sure. Well, what would you like to use it for? So he said, I'm the director for the state of Texas Child Welfare Department. And he said, this would be perfect for raising awareness for Child Abuse Prevention Month in April. So I said, you're welcome to have my song for that. You know, I'm more than happy to donate it. Anyway, we went and recorded the song, and he said, but I want you to do a month-long tour around Texas to promote the song and promote child abuse awareness. So I thought, I can do that, you know. I sing, I'm on stage, I can say a few things about child abuse prevention. And so we did that, and they said, right, we've organized this tour for you. And the first day I got there thinking that I'm going to talk to a few parents, you know, maybe a few community people, maybe 20 people. And I get to the school and there's 500 kids. And I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? So I thought, well, I'll sing them a few songs. We'll get going with a few songs. I can do that. And then I started talking, and I said, you know, I'm here because we want to raise awareness of child abuse prevention. And I started talking about abused children. And then suddenly, from nowhere, I started talking about my sexual abuse as a child. And of course, I never ever told anybody that I had been sexually abused, because sexual literacy wasn't a thing in our day. Nobody ever talked about it. Nobody ever discussed it. It wasn't discussed in the home, with the family, nothing. And so I had carried this secret with me I was 30 by that time, and never had told anyone. And the reaction after the presentation was amazing. We just had all these kids come up afterwards saying, this is happening to me. This is so-and-so did that to me. And we were just almost overwhelmed with at least 15% of the 500 children coming forward and saying, this is what happened. Luckily, I was with the Child Welfare Board, and they had social services with them and everything, and we had the school counselors, so we could cope with it. But it was for me, it was overwhelming to share my story and have that kind of reaction. The next day, exactly the same thing happened, apart from it got to this high school and there's 2,000 teenagers, which is a scary thought. And I thought, okay, well, I just did the same thing. And I think with kids, when you're talking to kids, the best thing you can do is be honest with them. They can see through people. And if you try and give them stuff that's not true, that's not legitimate, all that kind of stuff, kids relate to honesty. And I think just being bare-boned about what happened to me, how I felt, that seemed to resonate with the children, is how did I feel? I felt alone. I felt ashamed. I felt that nobody else had ever had this done to them. You know, it's really, really important for kids to know that it wasn't my fault that it happened. And they need to know all these things, because probably 90% of them haven't told about their abuse, haven't spoken to anybody. So it's important we get that message out to children. So again, the same thing happened. We had all these kids that came forward and shared. And by the end of the week, I said we had the Department of Education and Social Services there. And I said, look, there seems to be something really magical about using this subject and using music. And as I am a songwriter, tell me what you want in this program. You tell me everything that I can share with these kids, and I will put a program together. And my life turned around from that time. It's like I went to Nashville to sing, to become a star, you know. But what life had for me was 10 times more important, you know. With the My Body is My Body program, we're changing lives, we're showing children, we're protecting children, we're teaching children that before they get abused, that if somebody does this to you, you have a right to say no. You have a right to tell. You have a right to stand up for yourself. And we're also telling other children that unfortunately have been abused already, that you don't have to stand for that. You can say something. You can speak up. These are the people that you can speak up to. And this is how you're going to feel. And it's all right. That is all normal. You know, it's normal for you to feel sick in your tummy. It's normal for you to shake. It's normal for you to feel scared. You know, we have to show these children that it's not just them. And I think that was my big thing, was that I thought all those years it was just me. And I was ashamed of myself and who I was, and that I was a touched child. You feel that you're not worthy. And we have to show all these kids, boys and girls, that it's not their fault. If they've been abused, it's never their fault. So these songs came out of me, and the My Body is My Body program was born. And for the next 5 years, I toured around all different states, Texas, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, Virginia, and just spoke in schools, spoke at Rotary meetings, raised funds to put the program in the schools, and just I tallied up, and over the next 5 years, I spoke personally to 350,000 children, and we had a good rate of 15% at each school. Because what I did after each class, and I've still got many of the letters with me that I saved, I used to say to them, right, once we finish this program, I want you to write me a letter. And you can tell me that you liked the songs, or you hated the songs, you thought I sang nicely, or you thought I was a rubbish singer, you're having some problems. I would just put it all in there and just put all sorts of things, and then say, if somebody's abusing you, you can put it in your letter. Nobody's going to know, because everybody's writing a letter. So, it's not like we're going to single any child out. You just all write something down, whatever you want. And then those letters used to come forward, and then the amazing amount of things that came out of what was happening to children. And there's some amazing stories that really sort of melted my heart, because after I did a school, I got a letter back from the principal about 2 months later, and he said, I needed to forward this to you. He said that one of the little girls that you spoke to in your program was being sexually abused by her grandfather, but the mother had also been sexually abused by the grandfather, and her sisters had also been sexually abused, and none of them had ever had the wherewithal to stand up and say anything about it, but this child did. And the whole family wrote to the principal to say thank you for bringing the program to the school, because their lives had changed. It's making me cry. Their lives had changed, And they had found out that this guy had been doing this to the whole family and nobody had spoken up. And they said, you know, we wanted to thank you that this little girl could speak up and change everything. So those kind of stories are amazing to me. You know, we just had a little girl that was sexually abused in Kenya that we helped, and she is now in a different home, going to school because she wasn't going to school. And it's those stories of enlightenment and things where lives are being changed for the better that make it so worthwhile for this program. The My Body is My Body program, just a quick thing around it, uses music because music is an amazing way of teaching children. And it not only is empowering, it is it's wonderful because it uses all areas of the brain. You know, speech only uses a certain area, whereas music uses every single area. And when you teach children using music, that message stays with them for life. You know, you teach them these little My Body is My Body songs, or Say No to Secrets, or if you've got a problem, tell somebody. It's in there and it stays there with the children, which is what we want. We want these kids, as they grow up, to be empowered, to be emboldened. And that's the whole idea behind the program. I started the program doing it live, and then I decided that it needed to be shared with more people. So I thought, well, the best way to do it is to put YouTube videos up. And I thought, well, it's going to be very boring for children if I'm just sitting there going, this is my body and this is what you need to do. So I thought we need to have it animated because that's, children love animations. And then I looked at the cost of animating and found out that it's goodness knows how many thousands per minute. And I thought, okay, that ain't going to happen. So I thought I'll just have to learn. So I spent the next 4 years learning how to animate, and 220 videos later, we now have the program in 25 languages. It's sung in 12 languages, and I'm busy working on more languages at the moment as we speak. And it's just grown out of anything that I could have imagined. You know, I just thought I'd put a few YouTube videos up on YouTube and a few people would watch them. Well, I mean, they've been watched over 1.2 million times now, and in over 200 countries. And I think it's just going to carry on growing and growing. We're working with people in 50 different countries where I've got volunteers taking the program out into schools. I'm just forming the charity foundation. So there's going to be a My Body is My Body foundation where I want to raise funds to put pamphlets in the schools so the kids can take things home in their language so that their parents can read them as well, and the parents can become more informed. I want the kids to have workbooks in the schools when we're doing the program. So that's just another whole thing that is going to happen. And it's just very, very exciting to be working with so many committed people that are just volunteers that just want to do something good for their communities, for their kids, and empower and embolden the children. The strange thing, though, that I found with the program is that it not only helps kids, the amount of adults that I speak to that go, oh, I love your program. And since I've had your program or heard it, you know, I've started speaking to other people about my abuse, which I've never spoken to people about. So it's not only good for, it is a kids program, but it's not only good for kids because adults seem to find it an empowering way of talking about their own abuse as well. So the journey, I'm not sure where it'll take me, but I will go with it wherever it wants to go, and we will get as big and reach as many children as we possibly can. I always say to people, you don't have to do my program. If you've got a program, we all teach the same sort of lessons. So use your program, use my songs. I don't mind. You know, my whole idea is we need to reach as many children in as many languages, in as many countries, and make sure that they have the sexual literacy skills that they need. That's what we've got to do. And we've got to do it from the age of 3, because children are aware from the age of 3. And if we can get to kids before they are abused, we're doing a good thing there, because there's amazing statistics from children from the age of 3 to 7. There are, especially with sexual abuse, there's so many children abused at that age because they don't know what is going on. But if we encourage them to know about their bodies, and this is mine, and you're not allowed to touch my private parts, we can do so much to stop abuse. Just a little nugget, which I think is amazing. I went to the Nashville prison, the big prison, where they had a lot of people in there that had raped and sexually abused children, because I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to find out where their mindset was. And I said to them, if a child said no to you, what would you do? And they said, I go and find another child, because we don't want trouble. We don't want people to know what we're doing. They were actually called a group called Parents in Prison. So they were a group of people that were trying to make better. They'd been incarcerated for these crimes, but they wanted to make sure that things were improved and ways were changed. And so they were trying to help me understand what was going on. So if we can teach children to say no, and that they go and they tell, this is what's happened to me, so-and-so tried to touch my private parts, we are stopping that abuse, and that child is being saved. So they go and find another child, but we need to make sure that all children are taught this program. All children are taught about their bodies and sexual literacy. It's so important. It's like number one. You know, we need to make sure, so that as they grow up and they start dating, they are confident with their bodies, and they know they can say no, you're not doing that. You're not touching me. You don't have my permission. That is where we need to get. We will stop a lot of the nonsense that goes on. Even as a young girl, growing up in the 70s, I came across all sorts of things where, working in a hairdresser, I was sexually assaulted. It didn't go into a rape, but it was an assault. But you just go, oh, you know, and you didn't know. You didn't go, hey, if you do that again, I'm going to tell on you. Well, I'm going to tell on you now. You can't do that to me. It's my body. We weren't taught that. But we need to teach all young girls and boys that they have rights over their bodies. So that is what the My Body is My Body program is about. I love what I do. I'm so proud to be part of World Unity Week 2022. And I hope that together, all of us can make a massive difference out there for our children, for our communities, for everyone, for a better life. Thank you.